you've got a problem. Your dream car is painfully slow. 500,000 kilometers, and careful owners who all swore they never hit the limiter. And the engine is feeling a little tired, to say the least. Somewhere deep in your subconscious whispers,
Just K-swap $2,000.
K-swap it!
Sweet, K-swap it.
At this point, it's almost inevitable. If you want a small, lightweight car that's fast and reliable, there doesn't seem to be a better option. The Honda K-Series is possibly the internet's favourite engine swap, and for good reason. You've seen it in a Ferrari and almost every Japanese chassis under the sun. But why? What makes the K-Series better than any other 4-cylinder engine swap, and why should you maybe think twice about using one yourself? To understand what the K-Series is, let's start with the engine it replaced. And if you listen carefully, on a quiet night, in almost any city in the world, you'll hear it. One of the most iconic Japanese engines ever made, the B-Series. A high-revving, dual overhead cam, notoriously unkillable engine. These engines shaped the 90s and early 2000s Honda scene, found in the Integra, CRX, and
3 Honda Civics with spoon engines.
the B-Series was Honda's lightweight performance monster, with people eventually pushing 500 plus horsepower through relatively stock B-Series blocks. 24-hour Endurance Series and even Formula 3 all use variants of the Honda B-Series to great success. So why abandon such an exciting and reliable platform for something you'd find in an SUV?
It's a miracle!
With the new millennium came a few new rules, specifically emissions rules. This meant car makers not only had to consider sound, driver feel, and reliability, now they had to worry about if a car burned too many old dinosaurs and poisoned children with its exhaust. Honda's response was a collection of updates to modernize their 4-cylinder offerings to improve efficiency and reduce emissions. They updated the B-Series VTEC system, responsible for their iconic noise, adding intelligence, creating the i-VTEC system. Along with switchable cam lobes like the one in the B-Series to add more lift and duration, the new intelligent K-Series added variable cam phasing. So let's take a closer look at how variable cam phasing works.
As a guide, normally we want to advance the cam timing so that the valves open and close earlier in the engine cycle at low RPM, but in order to take advantage of the inertia of the high air velocity at high RPM, we may want to retard the cam timing, meaning that the intake and exhaust valves will open and close later in the engine cycle. With modern EFI though, continuously variable cam timing, where the ECU can mechanically advance or retard the cam timing as the engine is running, has become commonplace. This allows the ideal cam timing to be selected based on the current engine RPM and load, providing a much wider torque curve. The two lines show the engine power with the cam control disabled when the intake cam is run in its most retarded position. The overlay shows the result of optimizing the cam timing throughout the rev range, and you can see the gain in power shown, particularly in the low and mid RPM range.
If you're interested in the K-Series and thinking about building your own, we've documented a full 10-step process as part of our practical engine building course, which is linked below. And if you're liking this new format, consider subscribing and let us know what you'd like to see next. Performance models in the early 2000s, like Type R Civics and Integras, came with these enlarged hearts. But lucky for us, so did the CR-V, the Accord, and other larger, heavier, mass-market cars. There are heaps of block and head designs for the K-Series, and not all are made equal when it comes to squeezing out performance. But this flood of engines made finding K-Series parts cheap and easy. Before you go out and throw money at a marketplace listing, you've got options.
Get into this Honda K20, I mean, yeah, no secret, it is what I'd consider arguably, or maybe unarguably, the best 2-litre 4-cylinder naturally aspirated engine.
Just fundamentally good in every area. I mean, one of the big reliability aspects, I suppose, is having a chain drive over a conventional. A lot of full 2-litre engines have a cam belt. When I've been using the engine in V2V and endurance racing, that chain drive has been one of the big aspects for reliability.
The K-Series came in two primary variants, The 2-litre typically found in more performance-orientated models like the Integra, or the 2.4-litre found in larger models like the SUVs and station wagons. Aside from the obvious difference in displacement, there are a few details you'll need to know before you buy. Like any road-going combustion engine, the head and the block are two separate pieces. In the head, the valve train carefully times the addition of air and fuel into the engine. This is often what separates boring engines from the exciting, tunable platforms that we look for as builders. A combustion engine can be thought of as an air pump. The more air you can move through the inlet and exhaust valves, the more power you can extract. The K-series heads, even in stock form, feature incredible port efficiency and large valves. But the key to picking the right performance head in this case is getting the right camshaft arrangement. The K-series comes with two different cam setups, generally referred to as two-lobe and three-lobe heads. Taking a look under the rocker cover, you'll find that the camshafts of Performance K-series have 3 cam lobes per cylinder on both the intake and exhaust sides. Identical lobes on either side, one for each valve. These actuate roller rockers over each valve to make valve lash adjustment simple. The third lobe is centered between the two valves and is the key to VTEC. Engine oil pressure directed by an electric solenoid pushes pins between the 3 lobes, locking them together and passing the more aggressive lift and duration of the VTEC lobe into the valves. The 2-lobe head is a different story, optimized for efficiency rather than performance. It features 2 mild lobe options on the intake cam and only a single lobe on the exhaust cam. Pick the wrong head and you've got a completely different engine on your hands that won't get much better than the minivan it came from. And unfortunately, the heads are cast differently, so converting between them isn't a trivial task. The K20 features a square bore-to-stroke ratio, which means that the bore diameter and the stroke length are the same, in this case 86mm. The K24 on the other hand is an undersquare engine with a stroke of 99mm and a bore very close to the K20 at 87mm. The bore to stroke ratio isn't a hard rule, and some clear exceptions have broken the trend, like the B18 we mentioned earlier, but it does provide insight into the likely performance window of the engine. Here are some examples of undersquare, square and oversquare engines that are popular in the aftermarket. The trend you'll notice looking at this bore stroke comparison is that these undersquare engines are typically known for low end torque and the oversquare engines thrive at high RPM. Honda's K20, Toyota's 2JZ and Nissan's SR20s are all examples of the middle ground, where square layouts deliver a balance of torque and reliability, making them the go-to engines for so many builders. So it's time to decide, are you looking to sit high in the rev range, maybe pushing the limits on the track with a K20, or would you rather the K24's low-end torque to effortlessly carve through canyons? Actually, there's a third option. Honda engineers, not content with gifting the world 2 strong, reliable, and beautifully engineered masterpieces, decided to go a step further and design them a little bit like a Lego kit. This means we can swap the high-performance, free-flowing K20 head onto the torquey K24 bottom end and get the best of both worlds. If you're not running in a displacement limited racing class or just want to get the most power from a 4-cylinder engine, this K20, K24 head and block combo in closest stock form is practically unbeatable in naturally aspirated performance to weight, boost handling capacity, and importantly, price. There are 25 plus years and a massive catalogue of cars that came with these K-series engines. Too many for us to give you an exhaustive list of compatible head and block combos, but these are the codes that you'll be looking out for to get a strong starting point. Alright, it can't be all trouble-free motoring and cheap horsepower though, can it? There aren't many common reliability issues in the K-series world for anyone in street trim, but no engine is without its drawbacks. So let's see why you might think twice about using one, or perhaps avoid some of the potential drawbacks if you do. Firstly, vibration. Manufacturers dedicate huge engineering efforts to reducing NVH, noise, vibration, and harshness. One of the first things people do when they want their car to feel tight and high performance is throw all that engineering in the bin, removing the factory rubber engine mounts and replacing them with urethane bushes or solid mounts. There are definite benefits to stiffy engine mounts. In the case of serious race builds, controlling engine torque, managing movement and thermal expansion with tight tolerances under high G-force loads is crucial. But if you've ever driven a purpose-built race car, you'll know that it can be brutal. The vibration, once damped by the factory rubber bushes, instead travels from the engine directly into your spine. If you're building a street car that might sit idling in traffic or occasionally slide through the KFC drive-thru, you'll appreciate having your teeth intact when you reach your destination. The K24 in particular are notorious for vibration, as are many other high displacement 4-cylinders with their inherent balance challenges. Honda engineers knew this and they built a balance shaft system into the K24. Integrated into the oil pump assembly, these two balance shafts rotate at twice the crankshaft speed. But they're designed for lower RPM use, so in high performance builds it's common to remove them by replacing them with the K20 oil pump. This negates the failure risk of the balance shafts, but means you exaggerate the already pronounced vibration. This brings us to issue number 2. Not exclusively a Honda or K-Series issue, but still worth mentioning. Oil slosh and starvation are genuine concerns as grip levels increase and the car is driven harder. Adding a simple baffled oil sump that keeps a good supply at the oil pickup can be an easy win for peace of mind. Thirdly, when you add boost to an engine, something's got to be the first to give, and in the K-Series, this tends to be the rods or the pistons. Designed to be light and reliable in NA form and certainly capable of handling a small amount of boost, the stock rods and pistons are going to be the first internal part that you'll want to upgrade when the boost is dialed up. Careful turbo selection and boost control strategy can help here, extending stock component life by ramping in the boost pressure so you're not getting high cylinder pressure at low RPM. The Michelin star recipe for bending rods to perfection. We tuned this legendary Ford RS200 with the same boost control strategies in mind if you want to learn more. The final issue is being boring. Just about every issue on the K-Series has been solved and every variation has been tried. Picking something unique and facing the mountain of engineering and design challenges head-on is part of the fun. As enthusiasts, we build not because it's easy, but because we thought it would be easy, and we get to pop the hood and be proud of the monumental tasks that we've overcome. If you want compact, bolt-on power that's well supported in the aftermarket, then the K-Series might be the perfect platform. But if you're like us and like the journey as much as the destination, then here are a few other engines in the same weight class that we'd like to see get more love. The Vauxhall C20XE, Ford Duratec, Peugeot 306 GTI-6 engine, Volvo Red Block with the 16-valve head, or even Honda's G20 and G25, their little-known 5-cylinder experiment. If you think there's another underappreciated 4-cylinder engine that we've missed, drop it in the comments below. Crushing the boring stereotype associated with the K-Series engine, legends like Craig from Neutron Engines are taking the best parts from this over-engineered masterpiece and finding new ways to maximize its potential. In this case, turning two K-Series heads into a K48. It's a flat plane crank V8 configuration designed to make 700 naturally aspirated horsepower. It's easy to think that the end of the road might be in sight for this beloved engine. After all, the K-Series was first introduced more than 25 years ago. And in a world where electrification and emissions shape so much of modern vehicle development, you'd be forgiven for wondering if something like this still has a place. If you spend any time watching time attack competitions, British touring cars, or even North American Formula 3 or 4, it won't be long till you're treated to that sweet, unmistakable sound of a K-Series being pushed to its limits. Honda itself is keeping the K-Series alive, even if it's in the name only. The modern Honda Civic Type R sports a K20C engine, taking the learnings from the original K-Series and adding direct injection and factory turbocharging, meaning there'll be a new wave of Honda 4-cylinders trickling down to us enthusiasts for a while yet. In many ways, the K-Series stands as a snapshot of a golden era of engine development. A time where ambition was high and engineers beat accountants. As the automotive world changes and new technology arrives, the K-Series serves as a historic landmark in engineering excellence. Perhaps the best example of putting in the effort and doing the job right. So next time you spot a marketplace bargain, you should hopefully have your answer.